Episode 10, Burden of Proof. A quick shout out to Malcolm Gladwell for doing another episode, Burden of Proof. Totally different concept that we're delving into today. Figured we got Halloween coming up, so I was like, let's do something a little bit more Halloween themed. Today we're going to delve into the Salem witch trials, Burden of Proof. So I think that most people are familiar with the concept of what the Salem witch trials were about, but the underlying concept that I want to delve into is how do you prove something that does not exist? When you talk about something like an invisible unicorn, you said there's no invisible unicorns in the US. How would you prove that? Like, you'd have to make an assumption that because no evidence has turned up in such a big time span, that you just have to make that jump, a leap of faith, so to speak, and say, there couldn't be one because we would have seen one by now. Very familiar case with Bigfoot and Mothman, cryptids. If you have something that doesn't exist, how do you find it to show people it doesn't exist? There's no way to find the nothing that isn't there. So weird. And what ends up happening, specifically in the Salem witch trials, when you try to defend something that isn't there, not only that, but an enemy that isn't there, that enemy shifts over to point at you. Because if you're saying a witch cannot exist, maybe that's because you're a witch. You definitely exist. And then they burn you at the stake. So when you know that kind of thing is coming, no one's going to speak up. Everyone's going to be quiet, and they listen to this weird narrative about these secret enemies that are plotting against the city and trying to manipulate people and change their dreams or whatever the strange accusations were. But the point being is there was no way to stop it without pointing to the burden of proof to say, you guys have to prove that this exists. You guys have to showcase some real evidence. You can't just say that, this girl was hallucinating, so that just means witch. You're making this huge jump to conclusions that are dangerous, very dangerous. And people didn't trace the motive. That was another part. It's like it's easy to see. If I say this person's a witch, and then they say, well, what would happen if this person was burned at the stake? You backtrace that and you say, well, the case would go to court, and the court would award this land to whatever the biggest farmer is in the area to take care of, at least until further notice. And that would fall on the guy making the accusation. And then it's easy to trace. Well, of course he's making the accusation. He'll get the land. And it's so easy to see now, but I don't think people backtraced it. I don't think people put together a case to say, in this person's defense, you would benefit the most from making this accusation. So, of course, you're going to do that. And the next one you'll try to accuse will be this person because that would be most beneficial for you. I would have stopped the accusations in their tracks because they would have had to have turned and said, well, you're also a witch, and then burn the person who was trying to defend. Afterwards, they could not go after the most beneficial person because people would know then. As soon as they say, well, also, you're like, hey, wait a minute, that's what that guy said you were going to do. The one we just burned at the stake a little bit ago. It's like a game of chess almost. That would make an interesting online game, actually. It's sort of like Werewolf. You guys have played that or are familiar with that. The concept of the card game is everyone gets a card. Nobody knows what the other people's cards are. And you play the role of a village sitting in a circle. And every night, the two werewolves get to wake up and choose who to take out. Then in the daytime, everybody wakes up together and they find out who the werewolves took down. And then they have to talk amongst themselves. Say, well, who do we think it is and what's going on? And you start making accusations and you say, well, maybe it's this guy. And you try to see how he reacts. And he's trying to defend the werewolves. And you don't really know. And that's a a great game to get this understanding going of how this system works. When you're hunting an enemy that isn't there, or you're hunting a proof that isn't existing, you're able to kind of point at anybody and say, well, maybe it's them. And then you get enough people together, people are scared to say anything to the accuser because what if they get caught in the crossfire? Like, oh, just it's chilling, chilling. So the Salem witch trials had the same thing going on. At all times, it was everyone's afraid to speak because what if that hand points at them? Suddenly they're the witch, and they're like, well, how do I prove I'm not a witch other than the fact that I'm not? It's like there's no way to have evidence against that. And that's why it is of dire importance to prevent these witch hunts from happening. The accuser has to present more evidence than just pointing a finger. We're coming up with these weird use cases of like, oh, well, two chickens looked at them funny. It's like, what? How did people go along with this? Probably because of fear. I guess fear and mass hysteria. That definitely does it to you. There's a whole mob of people with baseball bats, like, yeah, we're going to burn this witch at the stake. Are you really going to stand in front of them and tell them they're wrong? Yeah, might be a little difficult. Even saying something as minimal as, are we sure we got the right person? Like, oh, what are you trying to defend them? Are you trying to manipulate us too? Because you're a witch? You don't even want to say it. There's a group like that burning someone at the stake. It's already gone too far. I think that's the truth of it. People need to have a little bit more integrity. That's why the burden of proof is so important. People need to have standards. They need to say, you can't show me definitive evidence, then I cannot accept an accusation. That's what our court systems do. That's what makes them so beautiful, that you are innocent until proven guilty. Even if that means some slippery situations where somebody might not be properly, what would you say, properly dealt with, I guess. It's the burden of proof. You have to have the evidence because it's so dangerous. So dangerous. We saw that even recently with some of the media influencers, some of the bigger people. There was a guy I used to listen to. He had podcasts, and he was accused of what, putting his arm on someone's shoulder when they were crying. They took him off the air. They said that they were so scared of what could possibly happen if that person uh, was looked at bad from the public eye. They pulled all their stuff off the air. They said they'll never have their stuff again. This was a storyteller. For years and years, he had a radio show. All these like beautiful hometown stories, really simple, really modest, good message, nice, something nice to listen to. I would say it was a beautiful, beautiful series over years and years and years. All these stories. That one accusation was such a large potential of worry that they just said, let's just completely destroy this guy's legacy, just in case. And they didn't respect the burden of proof. They didn't say, let's really be certain. They said, no, we're worried. And we're worried that if we don't burn a witch at the stake, that they might point at us and say, well, maybe you're defending this because you're a witch. The same concept is what I'm trying to get at. The exact same concept. When you're chasing an enemy that has no way to defend themselves because the proof does not exist, then it falls on the accuser. You have to have that proof because without it, it's a dangerous world. You can just point at anybody and be like, they probably stole something. Arrest them. It's like, what? Does that make any sense? That person has a funny nose. Arrest them. It's too dangerous. Too dangerous of a world to live in where we do not respect proof. If history does not want to repeat itself, you have to understand that lesson. We have to be teaching that. We have to be respecting that. We have to think about how many different ways that could happen, and how many different ways that could be set up. And if we're chasing an enemy that doesn't have any proof of existing, how do we know we're really chasing that enemy? And if somebody is there that's benefiting, how do we not trace that? How do we not say, well, what do they get out of this? And if they get everything, like, well, maybe they have a motive. Maybe they have a motive. Point the finger and say, go after this person. Terrifying, terrifying thing. Anyways, we do got the holidays coming up here, specifically Halloween. Always a good time. I think it's one of the favorite holidays for everybody because it doesn't really have, what would you say? There's not too much need for it, I guess. It's just there, just enjoyable. It's a fun little theme. It's like, yeah, dress up in a costume, have fun with whatever, go to parties. Just enjoyable, I guess, overall. Anyways, until next time.